Hello, good evening. Welcome to Dave's Tackle Box. It is Sunday the 12th of May 2013. On tonight's show, we're going to be dedicating a large portion of it to talking about what's been going on in Europe during the week. And I don't mean me going to work. That's technically Europe anyway. I've also got this thing, which I've been playing with today, which is a little bit bizarre. But all will be revealed after the titles. And there we go. I knew which camera it was going to be all along. I was just pretending not to know. Yes, so this week there's been an awful lot going on in Brussels, and I have to confess here that I have not even had a chance to catch up with all of the VTTV coverage so far. So rather than just bang on about the same stuff from the same angle as we've already done, I thought, I'll see if Dave Dorn's available and we can talk about it on my show, and then I can find out what's going on and we can discuss it. So we're going to be doing that, and I'm going to set it up though first. I'm going to set it up because I've got a bit of footage here that you haven't seen yet, and it's all to do with the Smoke Without Fire campaign and Mr. Andy Sutton. Now Andy probably would have joined us tonight, but unfortunately he's got man flu, and we all know how serious that could be. So he's off the hook. I'm sure he's watching with his box of tissues and but he has very kindly sent me this bit of footage so I can give it its debut. After the show it will be available on YouTube, but now it's a bit of an exclusive. If I disappear for a few minutes and grab the air gun off that shelf there, I'll be on my way to see that dog. But just a little reminder, Smoke Without Fire. So the Smoke Without Fire campaign, this is Andy Sutton's brainchild, which we are throwing everything behind in supporting. He set up a Kickstarter campaign to raise 10 grand so we can start putting down some professional quality VT that we can use to publicise our cause. The first thing I want to do is just get you a little update, if I can do so by doing that. Yes, that works. This is the Kickstarter campaign as it stands. We had a target of 10,000. We've still got 14 days to go, but we've exceeded it by 50%. If you are sitting there thinking, oh, I wish I'd contributed to that, but it's too late now, we've already beaten the target, fear not, because Andy has said that every penny we get will be put to good effect. So if we raise more, he can do more, and that's brilliant. And that brings me quite neatly into the next thing that I'm going to show you. Now, the whole idea, the whole concept behind the Smoke Without Fire campaign was to be able to send professional camera crews to the places that they need to be to tell people about e-cigarettes, you know, so they know what we're on about, and they know that what's going on in Brussels is fundamentally wrong. Now, I only managed to catch up earlier today and see the footage of Darren Burns at Safe for Six, his MP, visiting the shop there, and the camera crew were there, and that was brilliant. You know, I've forgotten the exact quote, but that little clip finished with a serving member of the British Parliament, you know, telling people that people's rights have got to be respected. Our right to choice has got to be respected, and he was going to tell that to the government. I think his exact words were, the government need to know. And, you know, so this stuff, it has an impact. But as I say, I've got a bit of an exclusive for you. So this is it's what's the word? It's the debut. It's the premiere. That's the word I'm looking for, of the latest thing off the out of Andy's cutting room. See what you think of this.
I know that people have very strong feelings on this subject, but I hope we all understand that we as MEPs are here to get the best possible regulation of these products, not to ban them, as is going around a lot on the internet.
First marketed in 2004, they are battery powdered, and they often are offered with flavors just to favor the consumption among adolescents and other groups.
There was a request from MEP to hear some users, and we chose the Users Association from Germany because they have the most users of e-cigarettes at the moment. So that's what we're going to do.
E-cigarettes are means for enjoyment and stimulation, very similar to a cup of coffee, and exist due to their freedom of availability, taste, and big variety of flavors.
I've read lots of other things, that we have an unholy alliance between myself and the tobacco industry. People who know me might think twice about that comment, and also the pharmaceutical industry.
The only company that has an e-cigarette approved by the MHRA for clinical trials today, you know who it is? It is CN Creative, owned by BAT, by British American Tobacco. So if you regulate this as a medicinal product, the consequence will be that you will hand the whole business over to the tobacco companies.
We therefore believe that subjecting electronic cigarettes above a certain threshold to marketing authorization under the pharmaceutical legislation is an appropriate solution.
The e-cigarette is not curing anything, but rather replacing approved harmful addiction with far less dangerous enjoyment. An easy understandable example, imagine to replace coffee with tea in case you have a weak stomach.
Also, you know, I may be cynical, but even salt can be looked as and viewed as a medicinal product, because salt can reduce high blood pressure. Are we going to regulate salt as well?
Our fear is that there is a time delay in health consequences. Just like with cigarettes, it might take decades before we see the health damage.
My name is Jean-François Etter. I'm a professor of public health at the University of Geneva. With Ricardo Polosa, I think I'm among the few people in this room who actually conducted research on electronic cigarettes for several years. And I must tell you that the science of electronic cigarettes has not been fairly represented here today. A number of things have been said that have no scientific basis at all.
8 out of 10 cases, people report negative symptoms. When it comes to symptoms from the cardiovascular system, a large majority reported negative symptoms from the chest.
You cannot represent science by just cherry-picking the negative studies and presenting this as science. It's not fair.
We cannot continue to subject different nicotine replacement therapies to different regulatory regimes. Currently, we have some products like patches, sprays, and chewing gums, others which contain exactly the same active substance, just in a different form of delivery, regulated in a completely different way. So this is clearly not a level playing field. I firmly believe that the pharmaceutical legislation is a good regulatory framework for e-cigarettes and would also ensure that these products do not develop into an entry gate for nicotine addiction for young people.
Eating tobacco is as dangerous as drinking e-liquids. Nicotine can be synthesized as well and will be the same substance. Or to put it in a picture, Coca-Cola is not coffee.
This workshop has been organised to listen to people so MEPs can come to their own view.
I really wonder, it's not rhetorical, why such a huge discrepancies between your picture and the one that we catch, not from the industry, the one that we catch, most of us catch from our relations, our contacts with the consumers, with the users, with les vapoteurs en français, with the vapors or whatever in English, I don't know. My question is though, we all want to see e-cigarettes used to prevent smoking, you know, to help people quit. But if it is a smoking cessation product, why can it not be regulated in the same way?
With e-cigarettes, you have something that can make a difference. I've worked in this field for 20 years. I think it can make a difference. If you regulate it as a medication, this will profit the pharma industry, who doesn't want a competitor, big tobacco, who are the only ones who can actually comply, and eliminate all other nicotine suppliers.
Tobacco kills 1 addict out of 2. That's the figure, it's not politics.
From the users who have spoken to me, they do not stop their nicotine habit, they stop smoking and they switch to an e-cigarette.
E-cigarettes are nothing less than an alternative to the tobacco cigarette.
I fear that if they are regulated as medicinal products, they will not be available as widely as possible, and the result is that thousands of people will die.
And there you go. Now, first of all, good evening, Dave. I just want to say a huge thank you for being on the show tonight. I gather we both had a hellish week for one reason or another, and you've done a bit of media this week, I believe.
Just a bit, here, there, and everywhere, as you do.
I caught up. I managed to watch. I must admit, I pulled up the vape team thing you did the other night. Oh, there's that dog again. Lock and load.
I've got a 410 somewhere, I'm sure.
They don't have this problem in the BBC studios, do they?
No, it never happens in the BBC.
I seem to recall Blue Peter did, but that's probably not relevant. Anyway, yes, the vape team thing you did the other night, I must admit, I scrolled it forward to where you were on, and then I had to sort of chop it, and I didn't watch much beyond where you had to bow out of the show. But I thought it looked very good. I do like those guys. Yeah, they're very complimentary of us, and I'm very complimentary of them, to be honest.
They do a damn good job.
They do an excellent. I love the format of the show. They know what they're doing, don't they?
They do. And Jamie's a good techno bot as well.
Yeah, indeed, yes. You know, it's funny actually. His bedroom looks like my spare bedroom a bit, with all those screens and monitors and stuff like that. And I've seen your studio too.
Yes.
Yeah, but anyway, we digress. So that video that we just showed, I don't know about you, I watched that video with mixed emotions. the first thing that strikes you about it is what professional camera crews can do that you and I, should we say, not quite so good at.
That's because they're professional.
That is because they're professional, but like,
Yes.
I don't know about you, I look at it and I love watching that sort of quality of VT when it's about a subject that I like. And obviously Andy's done a great job editing it as well. We know that the quality of the video that you get from the actual meetings is not that great, and yet he's made it look great, and that's good to know. But like I say, it's kind of tinged. So as much as you enjoy watching that and trying to pick up a few tricks for next time you're making your own video, both on the filming and the editing side of things, it's tinged by the content. And some of the blatant, what's the word I'm looking for? Idiocy,
Lies.
I think, is the word I'm looking for.
Lies.
Bull.
Disinformation. Disinformation with a D, not misinformation with an M. Misinformation.
Yeah, it's deliberately designed to mislead, isn't it? And they're trying to mislead the MEPs that are going to vote.
Well, that's exactly right. And more to the point, it was transparently disinformation. When you've got somebody of the stature of Jean-Francois Etter there, that guy knows what he's doing. He's got, 20 years of actually studying nicotine addiction in all its various forms. The man is a world-renowned authority. And yet you've got nuggets from the World Health Organization and various other places trying to discredit him.
Yeah.
And then when he wanders in and says, "You have not been presented with good science,"
it's an insult to him, isn't it? It's an insult to him. I mean, I can't remember the guy's name now, and I've like I say, I've had to skim through a lot of this, but there was a guy in there saying that the science that you're hearing is not accurate, it's not fair, was the term he used, wasn't it? He said it's not fair. And he's spot on. I mean, he's such a whitewash. Now, we sat on this show a week ago and we kind of predicted it would be a whitewash. So I can't say as I'm particularly surprised. That one thing that did surprise me about it, though, is how bloody blatant it is, this whitewash.
Well, I mean, the bottom line on it is, when you think about it, the truth is actually on our side. It doesn't matter which way you slice it, the truth is on our side, because the science is there to show that, and anybody that's doing proper science can see that. Ms. Pissinger, with the emphasis where it needs to be on her name, went to a forum where people who have just taken up e-cigs have noticed certain symptoms. That study was completely and utterly rubbish, completely useless. And when you compare it with what I've been told about Dr. Farsalinos' study, because Dr. Farsalinos' study is going to the constituent people will be self-selecting, i.e. they've chosen to take part, and therefore likelihood is that they are vapers and they like vaping and so on and so forth. I've been told that will be discounted, totally discounted, because they're self-selecting. And yet they've accepted exactly the same from this woman, again, pulling up people that are totally self-selected. She's fine, but Farsalinos isn't. How the hell can that be right?
Well, it isn't right. It clearly isn't right, and what it really does boil my piss, frankly. That you've got these people who are supposedly representing us, that are supposed to have our best interests at heart, and they're obviously serving their own agendas. The only sort of concern they seem to have about the people that they are representing is whether they can get away with it, whether they can get stuff past them. Well, they're certainly not concerned about our health or what's best for us, are they?
I think some of the MEPs over there are. I think some are actually listening, they're actually looking at the science, they're looking at the documentation, they realise that this is of life and death importance. It's actually that important. It is of life and death importance, and they've taken that on board, and they're doing the research that they need to do in order to get the answers right. Some, though, are coming from an ideological stance, a stance of prohibitionist puritanism, and to them, fun is not allowed.
Yeah.
Under any circumstances, fun is not allowed. These are the very people who in the States have managed to force Wrigley's to take a caffeine-containing gum off the market. It's not a nicotine-containing gum, because that would obviously...
Yeah, that'd be okay.
But a caffeine-containing gum has been forced off the market by these people who are prohibitionist Puritans. You cannot have any fun. You know that cat picture I used to put up?
Yeah, yeah.
It's exactly right. I had fun.
It is right. And it's right. And it's bloody serious, isn't it?
It's ridiculous. I mean, I've been ploughing through documentation solidly all this last week, and I've managed to find the draft opinions of various different committees that are being submitted to the ENVI committee. And really, you probably don't want to know. But if it kind of leads us to where the ENVI committee might go, unless we really get our acts together, I think we have cause to be worried. For instance, if I pick up on the internal market one, they've made an amendment to Article 18, and you know Article 18 is all about the e-cigs, Dave.
Right.
The text proposed by the Commission reads, and in fact what I'll do while I'm doing this, assuming my iPad is still awake, which apparently it is, I'll put it up on screen. So there you go.
Thank you very much.
It says the following nicotine-containing products may only be placed on the market if they were authorised pursuant to directive blah blah blah. Their amendment says nicotine-containing products may only be placed on the market if they were authorised pursuant to Directive 2001/83 EC. In other words, medicinal. And the reason that they say, their justification, analyses show that e-cigarettes contain chemicals and components which pose danger to consumers. For that reason, all NCP should be subject to control. Otherwise, products with levels of nicotine concentration just below the proposed thresholds could reach the market without any authorisation. Not only a concentration of nicotine is relevant, but a mixture of all substances is too. Consumers indicate as well, and get this bit, consumers indicate as well that they mainly use e-cigarettes to quit smoking, seeing it as a medicinal product. Therefore, they should be authorised in accordance with the Directive 2001/83 EC. That's exactly where they're at. That's come from the Internal Market Committee. That's
scary, isn't it?
That's just really, really scary. And I've got another couple of ones handy as well.
Well, tell you what, Dave. Let's take a break, and then maybe we'll pick through those, and then maybe we can have a think about how we counter some of this crap. Because let's face it, they've got the upper hand. They can organise the workshops. They can pick the people they want to listen to and the people that they're representing in these sessions. And we'll take a break, and we'll come straight back to it.
Indeed.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box. sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box.
Back in the room. Right, okay, so we were talking there, Dave, about the fact that the IMCO committee are saying that they believe that people say that they are using these as quick devices. Yeah. And just a little aside, really. Last night I went to an Indian restaurant in a local town, and the fact that it was an Indian restaurant isn't really significant. But I was stood just before, as we were walking through the door. I took a puff on the e-cig because I got out of a taxi, had a few drags on the e-cig, and I was just shoving it back in my pocket. And as I came in, I was greeted by this young waiter who said, "Is that any good?" And I said, "What?" Because I just shoved it back in my pocket. I didn't know what he was on about. He said, "The e-cig." And he showed us to our table, and then he stood there and was asking about it. And so I showed it to him, and he said, "I tried one, but it, I didn't really stick with it." And I said, "Let me guess, it was probably looked a bit like a cigarette, did it?" And he said, yeah, it wasn't that good, and all the rest of it. And I said, "Yeah, well, this," and I had actually with me this EVOD thing.
Oh, right, yes.
And so I was talking to him a bit about it, and eventually he asked the question, "Did it work? Does it work?" And I said, "Well, yeah, look," and showed him. And he said, "No, yeah, but have you quit?" And I said, "Well, depends what you mean by quit." And he said, "Well, so do you still smoke?" And I said, "Well, I haven't had a cigarette for as near as, damn it, 3 years now." And he looked at me surprised, and Fiona, my partner, was sitting opposite him. She said, "No, really, he bought that thing, and he was a heavy smoker, and like completely ruled by cigarettes, and he hasn't lit one up in nearly 3 years." And this guy was quite amazed, and so I said to him, I said, "But look, I don't consider I've quit." And I said, "And there's a reason that I don't tell people I've quit." And I said, "That's because this is not like your nicotine patches, I said, "I still use nicotine. I have no intention of stopping," and this quite surprised him. So, there are people out there who do see these things as quit devices. But that's only because they don't realise that they're playing, that there's a word game going on,
It's the word game's been there from day one. And it's just unfortunate that I suppose one of the guys in the ENVI workshop was on about, he distorted the figures, but Frederick Rees, who's an Aldi member from Belgium, she said that 1 in 2 cigarette smokers will die.
I saw that bit. Yes, it was in Andy's clip there, wasn't it? Yeah.
Was, yes. What
she said that's not politics. That's real.
Fact.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And he went on to say, he started distorting it. He said, "Yes, but that 1 in 2 is 1 in 10 rather is 100%." And I thought, "Oh my God, how does that work out?" And this is the same bloke, I think, Mr. Blassie, whose second son went into a library and had an asthma attack, apparently because somebody was using an e-cig in a library. It gave him an asthma attack. Now we've got the evidence of our own Gary Dibley, who is an asthmatic.
Absolutely, yeah. I saw that on his vaping story thing that he did for Smoke Without Fire. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, he's not the only one.
No, he's not. It's something you hear commonly, isn't it? I used to get through a couple of these inhalers a week, and now I get through one every 6 months, or I don't use one at all. We hear it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fact, and yet this bloke's trotting this thing out. And he kind of fudged whether it was cause and effect or what.
Yeah.
But that was the impression he wanted to give. The whole thing.
Just to interject there a bit, aren't they actually fueled by PG?
No.
No? Oh, okay, that's a myth.
Nebulizers are.
Nebulizers use PG. Okay.
Nebulizers use PG. My mum had, as I say, a COPD, and she finally went with cancer of the liver.
Right.
Brought on by smoke, and she got a tumour in the throat, and it went from there. But she had a nebulizer, and on the bottle, the nebulizer said that the constituent parts were whatever the drug was in, and then there was a proper name for it, which I can't remember, of propylene glycol and saline solution.
Right.
So, and that's putting a mask over your face, and you inhale a lot. And 5 mils in ampule, and she was using 4 ampules a day. So that's 20 mils of a PG mix she was inhaling. And that sure as hell didn't kill her.
But they've been smart, though, haven't they? They've been smart on the ENVI committee. Nobody said that PG could be a risk, and they've been very, very, very wary of suggesting that the flavourings could be a risk.
They have.
And they've concentrated their entire argument on nicotine.
I'm going to argue with you, Dave.
No, please do.
Karl-Heinz Florenz came up with PG, and that was a poison, and that could be nasty. And if you look at the MSDS and all the rest of it, he plastered a whole load of that out during the course of the ENVI workshop.
Right.
And of course, Jean-Francois Etier sat there and just went, no, wrong. You know, I mean, you listen to JFE, as I like to call it, presidential man, he ought to rule the world. He shut everything down in flames as far as I was concerned. And yet the rapporteur, whose name will never escape my lips in a nice way, sat and tried to make light of everything he said and kept on referring back to these guys from the World Health Organization and MHRA and everywhere else, and more or less saying they've got it right. And this bloke with 20 years of studying nothing else but nicotine addiction and tobacco and e-cigs and snus and everything like that knows nothing.
Yeah.
What a complete...
It's just an insult to his intelligence, isn't it? You know?
It's an insult to everybody's. And the thing about it is, what pleased me, because I've now watched the whole thing about 8 times, because I'm trying to construct rebuttals to everything that the idiots in there said.
That could take some time from the little bits I've seen.
There are so many things to rebut, trust me.
Like shooting fish in a barrel in one sense, but if you want to get them all, that's going to be some piece of work.
I have seen nappies with less shite in them. I'll use the word, I'm sorry, but it was full of absolute rubbish from the so-called experts. There's no other way around it, and I'm sorry to use language like that, I don't normally, but this has really got my blood boiling. So I've gone through it now a few times, and some of the crap they come out with talk about clutching at straws, but it's so obvious that that's what they're doing, that I'm hoping that MEPs with half an ounce of sense, even with a borrowed brain cell, you can see they have an agenda, and it's got nothing to do with...
It's worth at this point then mentioning Chris Davies, isn't it? I was actually watching Andy's video earlier, and it showed up on YouTube as one of the link things, and it showed Chris Davies's piece. Somebody who wasn't it wasn't an English language thing, but somebody ripped it and put it on YouTube anyway, so it's there if you look for it. It's Chris Davies at the ENVI committee or something, and I really wished I'd pulled that down actually.
Tweeted it.
Yeah,
I've tweeted it.
Right. Okay. So if you look for Hi-Fi Stud tweets, then you'll get a link to it if you haven't seen it already. And Chris Davies was frankly brilliant because he said the things that I would say. I remember his closing comment there was, you know, I mean, if these things like have the potential to save thousands of lives, I can't understand why we're considering restrictions that will make them harder to get. You know, I'm paraphrasing, obviously. I watched it earlier on and I didn't get the exact words, but he really went for it. I can't believe that we're trying to regulate these things inappropriately, and you know, Chris Davies is exactly why we started the Twitter bomb campaigns, writing to people, the Smoke Without Fire campaign, and if we can get one guy, because let's face it, we're not trying to bully these guys into doing something just to win votes. We're just saying, look, guys, just take the time to talk to people and find out, you know, and then it's natural what we want. It's as you said earlier, we've always in the right here.
Yes, and Ratfinks has said something which I want to read before it scrolls off. She says, e-cig users accept the fact that these things are not proven 100% safe, just the same way that cigarette smokers know that cigarettes are not 100% safe, but it's our choice as to whether or not we use them. It should be left to us. It's got nothing to do with government. Thumbs up to your adverts.
And that's why I liked the comment at the end of the piece with the MP visiting Safe ecig. You know, Darren, after I opened up and I said I couldn't remember exactly what phrase he used, Daz corrected me and I've probably forgotten it again now, but he said government has got to understand that we need to respect people's rights and that it must be their rights must be respected, I think he said. And you know, that's exactly right. You know, I mean, that is a good point that Ratfinks makes. You know, we know they're not 100% safe. But we know also, although ENVI would refuse to accept it, that they are 99 point whatever percent it is safer than cigarettes.
Well, quite. I mean,
you know, they're still not even entertaining the thought of hearing this harm reduction argument, are they?
Oh, not by
it's
any
still
stretch
quit or
of the
die.
imagination. I mean, that draft opinion from INTER, the Industry Research and Energy one, that I read out earlier on. No, it was INCO, my apologies. All of these things, they appear incapable of understanding that it's a bit like, I suppose, a pregnant lady who wants to continue drinking caffeine-free coffee. She still wants the coffee, she still wants the flavour and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Caffeine, she knows, is supposedly anyway not good for the fetus, so she drops the caffeine, but she maintains her habit. She maintains her coffee habit. And when the baby's born, finish feeding, get the caffeine back in. You might wonder how I know about this. Well, you know, new granddad and all of that. But my daughter and I were caffeine hounds of the greatest ilk. I've always liked a lot of caffeine. You know this. My daughter's exactly the same. Mm-hmm. I mean, if we ever went out shopping, guarantee would be straight into one of them. However many different coffee shops are available, would be into one of them and would be having 4 shots.
Do they pay tax, this one? Or?
Say again?
Do they pay tax, this one?
They all do, one way or another. Yeah.
Not necessarily in the UK,
yeah. Never mind. But yeah, I mean, she went on to caffeine free while she was carrying on.
Right.
But she didn't stop drinking the coffee. She was drinking caffeine free. And the caffeine would have been what would have done the damage in the coffee with oil. And what we've done with cigarettes is dead simple. We've done exactly the same. We've taken out what does the damage and left the stuff that doesn't, that we want to enjoy.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
It's as easy as that. And when it comes to this word quit and have you quit, I've equated this, and I maybe got barred from ACF for doing it. But my take on it is very, very simple. If you were a heroin addict and you were shooting up using needles, that is the most risky way of using heroin. Ask Jerry Stimpson, he'll tell you this because he's an expert in this. Heroin addicts are moved towards, if they can, smoking it. Because it's a safer way of taking it. There's much less danger of HIV.
It's the classic harm reduction argument, isn't it? That and like providing clean needles.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. And
it just seems that predominantly the Labour MPs, and I'm not normally one for getting all party political, but predominantly the Labour MPs don't appear to be able to understand that people should be allowed to use certain substances. I would say all substances, other people might disagree.
Yeah.
Should be encouraged to use it in the safest way possible. And then you get somebody like Glenys Wilmot in Andy's video saying, well, yes, if e-cigarettes can stop people from smoking, then we should be all behind them. Well, why aren't you, Wilmot?
Yeah. And well, her next statement actually quite answered your question, didn't it? She starts off, she said, if they prevent people smoking, we all want to see them be available to help people quit smoking. Yeah. And as soon as that your perception is that that's what they're for, then I actually, frustrating as it is, I can understand how somebody who hasn't bothered to find out, and that's a different argument, you know, if they haven't bothered but they're intending to push policy on it. But if you haven't bothered to find out, it is, at least on the face of it, a reasonable question. You know, if these are for quitting, then that makes them the same as patches. You know, so I can kind of see the argument they're coming up for. The point is, they're not for that. But they don't want to know that, do they? And now we're ramming that point down their throats. It's not ignorance anymore, it's just a refusal to accept it now.
Well, in actual fact, they've got it wrong. Because in the UK, at least, I'm not so sure about the rest of Europe, it's something I need to dig up. But in the UK, at least, patches, the plastic tampon, gums, lozenges, the squirty thing, the nose spray, all of that, they are no longer limited to being used towards total nicotine abstinence. They are now indicated for use in harm reduction. And to me, that means they should not have a marketing authorisation either.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you. I think it means something else as well. It proves they don't bloody work as they were intended.
Oh, well, they were never intended to work.
Well, yes, there's a good point, yes.
I quizzed somebody at Ash about this. Had a long conversation and said, look, they don't work. 7%, only 7% of people, and this is the maximum figure, that ever use NRT, quit altogether. And he said, well, yes, they were never intended to work. They were never intended to allow you to get any satisfaction or anything like that. They were only meant to just take the edge off. And this is the bit, you see, this is the part. This is the bit that the likes of Glenys Wilmot and a fair few others, they don't like the idea that we're not just taking the edge off. We're not just cutting down to quit. We're not going towards nicotine abstinence. We intend carrying on our habits in a clean way, in a way that's not going to kill us. And unfortunately, that doesn't quite fit in with her worldview or the World Health Organisation's worldview.
Right.
They want to see a nicotine-free world.
You're absolutely right.
A free world. And they want to see a caffeine-free world. And think of any manner of other things that we enjoy. They want to see the back of all of them. I've got no idea why.
I haven't. But to take us into our second break, I'm just going to go to camera because I've got a message for Glenys.
Have you?
Which camera? That camera. Glenys, I do not want to quit. Back in 2 minutes.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box.
iVapour and iVapour Elixir, based in Yorkshire, for your e-cig needs. That's iVapour.co.uk and iVapour-elixir.co.uk. iVapour and iVapour-elixir.co.uk, proud sponsors of VapourTrails.tv.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box.
And welcome back. Right, okay, so I think, you know, I think we've said everything that, well, we haven't said everything that could be said. Well, we've said everything that could be said and still be on air tomorrow, probably. Yeah? Without being shut down as a terrorist organisation or something, more than likely. But it's not terrible. It's not all bad. Okay, the term ants, anti-nicotine and tobacco zealots. These guys are zealots. Okay, whatever the motivation is, and we can only speculate on that. Maybe they're corrupt. Maybe they're deranged. Maybe they're both. Those are all the options that I can see. But It's not everybody. It's not everybody. We've won over Chris Davis. We spoke about Chris Davis already. There are other names. There are other people out there, and they're not just sort of jumping on a bandwagon.
No.
And you know, Rebecca Taylor, listening to all the arguments, making reason. She's arguing with us. She's making balanced, reasoned discussions. There are a number of players in there and in that committee that are doing us some good. Now, I just want to mention, we've always said when we've been covering this that we didn't want to get party political. But you hinted at it just before the break there.
I did.
It's party political, this is.
It is now.
It is. We thought it might go that way. But I'm going to say the thing that we originally weren't going to say. And that is that the Labour Party want this regulation through.
They do.
And that is a blow that we need to deal with. We need to chip away. The Tories, it's from Europe, so they don't fancy it much anyway. The Lib Dems generally seem to be going either way. Doesn't seem to be a party issue for them at the moment. UKIP, well, it's from Europe again, a bit like the Tories, so therefore it's got to be a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
But the Labour Party, or at least the MEPs and the MPs, all the letters that we've seen, they are broadly aligned. They're using the same template letter that they're getting from Glenys, basically, because she's the leader.
Yeah.
They say, Glenys, my constituents are asking me hard questions. What shall I tell them? And Glenys says, send them that. I'll get rid of them all apart from that guy Kitson. I haven't written her a letter for a few days, actually.
Constituent keeps on getting in my face.
But you know, this is the reality. So you know, I'm prepared to say, guys, you know, I mean, if you want to target people, let's target Labour, because they're the ones that don't agree with us. They're the ones that we've got to win over. But not everybody. Not everybody, Dave. Who else do we know is on our side? Who's nailed their colours to the mast?
Well, Jacqueline Foster has, Fiona Hall has, Martin Callanan has, Frederic Reis from Belgium has, I'm trying to think of a few others, and I'm sure the chat will help me out on this one. Groot, who is the chairman of the ENVI committee, of course.
Yes. I'm surprised he's not having more influence at this stage, or maybe he isn't just, it isn't public, I don't know.
He's maybe you know, the big gun, the big bowling ball that's just going to get fired at the correct moment. Engstrom, there's another one, he's with us. There's a fair few. I'm really only up to speed on the British MEPs.
Right.
I'm not up to speed on the French, the Germans, the Belgians, and everywhere, well, with the exception of Frederica Reis. But, you know, we need feedback on this. We need to get this together as a European community of e-cig users. That's what we need to do.
I think you're right. I think you're right. And I'm hoping that the Smoke Without Fire campaign can do that. I mean, it was great hearing you. Do you know what? I'm making an executive editorial decision here, and we're dumping that double-barrel Cartomizer thing. I'll use it next week. Okay. There's a couple of things that I do want to mention tonight as well, but I think you've just touched on a great subject there. The Smoke Without Fire campaign, Vape Team knew all about it, they knew what it is, and Dimitri made a great comment towards the end as he was wrapping up the section with yourself, you know, that we are all in this together, you know. You know, it doesn't matter if you live in the US, you can still get behind and back the tweet campaigns and all the rest of it. There was, I guess, some sense in inviting the German forum guys to the workshop, in that Germany has more vapors than the UK, who I guess is the second biggest users of e-cigs, I would guess. Just looking at the online community and the things that you hear said, it's clear that they're more common in Germany. I've seen a lot more vapors in Germany than I have in the UK, outside of meats. But I can't understand why you couldn't have had somebody from Germany and from the UK, but you know, that's another matter. Well,
there was a reason, if I may interject, there was a reason why they had somebody from Germany and not from the UK. And that was because they knew fine well they weren't going to be providing translation services So whoever was coming in from Germany was most likely to be a native German speaker and not likely to be completely fluent in English. So
really, they didn't provide translation services?
No translation services provided.
In Brussels?
In Brussels.
Where translators, they're hanging on street corners with like, "will work for dinner" signs. And
where they have, I believe, 300 translators working in the EU building alone.
That is absolutely shocking. I have to say, the couple of clips I saw of the German lads, though, their English was good enough, so I hope that's a tactic that backfired on them, frankly.
Well, I hope all of their tactics backfired on them.
The more you examine this, the more it infuriates you, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, my blood's been boiling since I watched it through on Tuesday. It didn't take long for the heat to start, and by the end of the first run through, I was ready to blow my cap. And the more I've watched it, the more I've listened to it, the more I have seen. What are you laughing at?
Jeff Venyon has just said that they're not translators on the street corners; they're transvestites, Dave. Transvestite. There wasn't there a film about that? You know, transvestite translators from Brussels or something. From Transylvania, no doubt. Yeah. So,
he gets his money for his e-cigs. Anyway,
excellent.
Yeah. No, I mean the bottom line on it, for me, at any rate, was that it was a transparent exercise in trying to rubbish e-cigs against the evidence, and I'm hoping and trusting that people will see that. Certainly, I've had emails now from other Conservative MPs as a result of the mass email out we did a couple of weeks back with Andy.
Yeah.
They're all saying, "Yeah, this is good. We're supporting. We're wholly behind you." I've not had anything back from Tories, Lib Dems, or UKIP, or Get Us Out of Europe parties. I've not had anything back that's been against what we're trying to do. It's only Labour and Greens. They're the two.
Right. There you go. So those are the guys you want to get at. Frankly, they're the guys we've got to win over.
Well, Chris Davis did have some very good advice in his letter out to everybody that's up on the web. And I've been through this a couple of times, but I don't mind going through it again. He says, in his opinion, nothing is more persuasive than making people think afresh about the issue. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to bring it up here, but I'm blanking nuggets. There we go. In my opinion, nothing is more persuasive in making people think afresh about this issue than the personal testimony of addicted smokers who have turned to the use of e-cigarettes. Mass emails of identical letters are particularly ineffective in my experience. They become simply an annoyance. It's particularly effective, he says, if the letters come from people who live in the region that the MEP represents. Yeah. And we all know about right to them. So my advice would be, very simply, find your Labour MEP or your Green MEP, and you have one. You definitely have one, and get writing.
Yeah.
And don't pull any punches. Just don't. Just tell them it like it is. Be polite, be constructive, be informative, but get onto them. Get in their faces. Do not let them get away with it, because if they can, they will. Soapbox off, calm, breathe.
But the point that Chris is making in his letter there, you know, that personal testimony counts better than any sort of generic letter or rant or quoting the statistics or anything like that. That's exactly the message that we were given by Jerry Stimson and by Clive Bates. You know, these guys have got to understand that we've got no political axe to grind here. We're talking about stuff that matters to us as individuals, as people that we expect to be represented by them. Simple as that. Right, now, I'm just going to take a slight detour, Dave. First thing I've got to do, and I'll go full camera for this so you don't share the shame.
Oh dear.
There's going to be no Midlands mini meet in May this year. Things have been too chaotic, and I just don't have the time to organise it. But I'm glad to say that the North East girls and boys have kind of mitigated it a bit for me and bailed me out, because there's going to be another knees up in June I, for my part, will try and organise a Midlands mini meet later in the year. It would be a shame to miss a year, so because we've had a couple of annual ones now. But this will keep you going until Vape Fest, and then Vape Fest will keep you going to when I might be able to organise a Midlands one. Have a look at this. The room. I just want to say thanks to Kat there, because that was an absolutely brilliant trailer.
It was.
You can't help but tap your foot along with that one, can you? So,
Absolutely.
What was that? The 29th, was it? I think something like that.
29th of June, yes.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best to get up to that one, but and like I say, I'm definitely going to try and organise something for later in the year. But between that and Vape Fest, you'll get through, guys. You'll manage. It'll be okay.
Ratfink says it's the day before a wedding. It'd be a bloody good stag do, or hen do. Get up, man! Don't be daft. Come on.
That's all right. There's no dress code. You can wear your bride's gown. It's all right.
We can learn them all how to talk proper like we're rusties and that. We get custy lush like now, how young?
Oh, they're talking about rotting shark e-juice. Yes,
no,
that was an experience.
No. Swifty McTavish, apparently, he's getting married on the 21st of June, so he might be there. But
what, to Ratfinks?
I would suggest. It sounds like a decent wedding night. Bad back, so it's the only way to come home. Stretch it back with a corset on. Preferably yours. Get suspenders though, because that's just too much.
Is it plan your honeymoon in a beautiful part of the world? Yeah. Tamworth or South Shields, either's good. Either's good. As long as you keep your eyes closed, you'll be fine.
All gets just said I owe him a pint.
Can't believe that. Probably other way round, maybe.
More than that.
Daz will be there, he says.
Yes. Coolio double glazy arse. It'll be a hell of an ease up. It'll be a canny do. It will, because the place where 'tis being held, the Sundial, is marvellous. And in June, the weather up here is tropical. Seriously, it's Mankini time. You'll see Bob Olgate.
I'll bear that in mind if I come. I'll dig out the Mankini. Right, Dave, we're getting kicked off here. Can I just say to everybody, thank you very much for sticking with us tonight. We've enjoyed it. Hope you have too. And thanks for watching. Say bye, Dave.
Bye, Dave.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tackle Box.